Do you know when a living, breathing woman truly dies inside? People say death only comes in the grave, but my soul passed away when I was only 30 years old. 30, the age when a woman dreams of building a heaven within her home. But at that very age, my husband let go of my hand as if I were nothing but an old, heavy burden. In a single heartbeat, I went from a bride to a ghost. No fault of mine, no explanation given. Just one sentence, and my entire universe collapsed. You see me now sitting in this grand library, but this isn't just luck. This is the silent revenge of a woman who was once thrown onto the streets. When I returned to my father's doorstep, there were no welcoming arms, only pitiful eyes watching my tragedy unfold. Their gazes asked one silent question: what will become of you now? I can never forget that night. The darkness, the suffocating silence, and the feeling of being a stranger in my own childhood home. They say daughters are the light of a father's house, but in this society, the weight of a young daughter returning to her aging father's shoulders is a burden only I can truly understand. They say a father's house is a sanctuary, but let me tell you a truth that people hide. No matter how large the house is, when a daughter returns after a broken marriage, the walls begin to shrink. My father, he never called me a burden. He welcomed me with open arms. But the world outside? They made sure I felt like a guest who had overstayed her welcome. Every time a relative visited, the whispers would start. I could hear them in the next room, their voices sharp like needles. Oh, poor thing, what will happen to her now? She's still so young. Find her a match quickly, or she will rot here for the rest of her life. They weren't giving advice. They were rubbing salt into a wound that was still bleeding. They looked at me as if I were a broken toy that everyone now had the right to judge, to pity, or to throw away. But the sharpest pain didn't come from the strangers. It came from seeing my mother cry in the shadows. She never said a word to me, but her silent, tear-filled eyes asked the same question over and over. What was your fault? Why did this happen to you? I felt the guilt of her tears suffocating me. I stopped looking in the mirror. I hated the face staring back at me because it looked like a failure. I began to believe their lies, that perhaps there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't worthy of a home or a life of my own. I locked myself in a room, hiding from the sunlight, hiding from the taunts, and hiding from a society that sees a single woman as a curse. I was living in a prison of what people say, and I couldn't see a way out. There comes a night in every person's life where you simply run out of tears. For me, that night arrived after years of silence. I stood in front of the mirror, looking at my hollow eyes, and I asked myself, for how long? How long will I live on the crumbs of other people's mercy? Is my existence defined only by being someone's daughter or someone's ex-wife? That night, I made a choice. I decided that the woman who died at 30 was finally going to be reborn. I wiped my face and realized that God gave me hands to work and a mind to think. So why should I remain a shadow on someone else's wall? I walked up to my father and told him, I am going to work. A storm erupted in our house. The whispers turned into shouts. What will people say? A young daughter going out to work? You will bring shame to our name. But I had realized something vital. People's opinions don't put food on the table, and they certainly don't bring peace to the soul. I started with a small, menial job. I remember the first time I stepped out of the house. It felt like 1,000 eyes were piercing through my back, judging my every step. But instead of lowering my head, I looked straight ahead. I began to study at night. I taught myself skills that the world said were not for women. I worked while others slept. The woman who used to huddle in the corner of a dark room was now standing on her own 2 feet. I learned that respect isn't a gift. It's a trophy you win through battle. I took my greatest weakness, my loneliness, and I turned it into my greatest strength. As I climbed the ladder of success, the very people who once looked down on me with pity began coming to me for advice. That was my first real step toward becoming the woman I am today. When the tides of success turned in my favor, the voices of the world changed with them. The same society that once branded me as the poor, abandoned girl now whispered my name with reverence. By the grace of God and through sheer, relentless grit, I had built an identity that belonged only to me. That wound from my 30s, the one everyone thought would be my end, had become my greatest badge of honor. The day I launched my own business, the day I saw the first real fruits of my labor, I realized a profound truth. A woman's true jewelry isn't gold or diamonds. It is her self-respect and her courage. I did things for my father that people claimed only a son could do. I raised his head high with pride, and the most ironic part? Those same relatives who once saw me as a burden were now bringing their own daughters to my doorstep, pleading, "Please, teach them how to live like you." Through this journey, I learned a harsh lesson. The world only cheers for the bird that flies high. It only tramples the one that stays on the ground. I was no longer that frightened girl hiding in the shadows. I was a woman whose life was governed by no one but herself. I have gathered all those bitter memories and tucked them away into the pages of these books. Today, when I look back at the man who walked away from me, I don't feel anger. I feel gratitude. Because if he hadn't let go of my hand, I would have never discovered the fire that was burning inside of me all along. Today, as I stand at this stage of my life where the sun is beginning to set, I look back and I feel no regret. People often ask me, "Where did you find such strength?" My answer is always the same. When you have nothing left to lose, that is exactly when you find the power to gain everything. This message is for every daughter, every sister, and every woman who stands alone at a crossroads today. Remember this: your existence does not depend on the yes or no of any man. If someone lets go of your hand, do not view it as your misfortune. View it as God releasing you from a small, cramped cage so that you can finally fly in the vast, open sky. When I was abandoned at 30, I thought my life was over. But the truth is, my real life only began in that moment of betrayal. I learned to fight alone. I learned to win alone. And everything I am today, I owe to my own hard work and the grace of the Almighty. The world will try to scare you. Society will call you a burden. Circumstances will try to crush your spirit. But you must not stop. Stop letting others put a price on your dreams. Write the book of your own life. Do not hand the pen to someone else and let them decide your fate. I felt the pain, I saw the hunger, and I endured the insults of my own people. But today, I live as a successful, free, and independent woman. Every book in this library holds a secret, but the lesson of my life is this: a woman is never weak. She is simply unaware of her own power. The day you recognize yourself is the day the world will bow at your feet. Do not lose heart, because after every dark night, a brilliant sunrise is waiting just for you. This is my life, this is my victory, and this is my message to you.